Hi, welcome to Restoration Talks. My name is Ariel Smith. I'm your host for today. Today we're going to be talking about gospel music. But before we do that, please like, share and subscribe and click on the notification bell. That way, anytime we get new content, you are the first to know. Today we have a Black History Month special talking about gospel music and talking about UK gospel. And we have the one, the only, John Fisher. Award-winning and Croydon-based resident John Fisher has been in the music business for over 40 years and has shared his gifts playing for some of the biggest names in gospel and soul music, being the drummer behind people like the London Community Gospel Choir, Shaka Khan, Misha Paris, Alexander O'Neill, Denise Williams, and so much more. John Fisher is an award-winning choir director with his choir IDMC, which stands for Individual Dedicated to the Ministry of Christ. They have been the finalists for BBC Songs of Praise Gospel Choir of the Year, also winners of the Premier Gospel Radio Gospel Choir of the Year and Urban Music Award for Best Gospel Act of 2018. Brought up in the NTCG church and the son of a musician and preacher, John has kept his faith strong and believes that's what made him who he is today. Welcome, John Fisher. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, sir.
A lot has been shone on, Black people, with the Black Lives Matter, CCM versus gospel, UK gospel, Black church versus white church. So it would be wrong if another Black History Month goes past and we don't talk about our history and talk about, gospel music and UK gospel, because we do have a lot of history in the UK, and I know you played a big part of that. And so I really consider you to be a legend, and say it was only right to have you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're going to kick-start this off with a quick game.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got a few words.
Okay.
And I want you to say the first thing that comes to your head. Yeah? You only got like 2 seconds to think about it, yeah? Cool. All right. Okay. Tambourine.
Old school church.
Black.
I'm going to say white, but...
All right. Organ.
Yeah, church.
Choir.
Big sound.
Andre Crouch.
Godfather of contemporary gospel music.
Gospel.
The inspired word of God.
Okay. All right. So as it's Black History Month, what does Black history mean to you?
Well, it's interesting you say that, Ariel, because growing up and even into my 20s and 30s, Black history was all about slavery. The Martin Luther Kings, the American journey of Black history. That's what we were fed in school, and that's what still is fed in school. But growing up and getting older and being able to tap into our history as Caribbeans, as UK people, then I started to learn so much more about where we're coming from, our journey. And it's gotten to the point where now, as you know, I work in schools and do music and stuff like that, and a lot of times we get called to do Black History Month specials. I've actually shied away from just delivering Negro spirituals and songs about the American struggle, and now moving towards more the UK history, our singers, our artists, our film stars, our producers, the history from the Caribbean, because being first generation Jamaican, British over here, it's been really important for me to understand where we're coming from, not where America's coming from.
That's right.
Because that's their history and I respect it, hands down. But I think sometimes because we're fed a lot of stuff from the States and they're one of the best marketers and promoters of themselves,
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We kind of get left in the shadows as if our history isn't as valuable. But truly, UK history, UK Black history, Caribbean Black history is so important, and that's where when you say Black History Month to me, now it's a bigger picture than just, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And trust me, that's part of what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll tell the story of the slaves and the songs and what they meant, and put a humorous slant to it. But now it's more important for me to help my children and the kids that I work with to understand that Black history doesn't start in America. Black history is right here in the UK as well.
That's true. All right. So what is gospel music? What's the foundation? What is gospel music?
Gospel music, first of all, you've got to look at what the message is, as far as I'm concerned. And different people will have their perspectives on things, and I respect that. But for me, gospel, first of all, is the good news of Jesus Christ. And that's, any preacher, any Christian will tell you that's what the gospel is. Now, when you talk about gospel music now, it's a style of music which, again, all respect, it heralds out of the American experience. When you say gospel, the first thing anybody's going to say to you, white or black, is going to be, "Oh, happy day," you know what I mean, as gospel music, you know what I mean? Or they're going to go back to Thomas A. Dorsey and say a lot of those songs that he wrote with Mahalia Jackson and all of those stuff, which is beautiful music that we've come up from. And so it's not so much a style of music. Sorry, it is a style of music, but gospel now is so much more than just old school choirs. You've got your R&B gospel, you've got your hip hop gospel, you've got the soul, reggae, all of these gospel. That's just the style of music that we put in front of it. In essence, it's about what we say.
Yeah.
And that's what's important to know for people to understand. When you're talking about gospel music, it has to have that message of Jesus Christ in it, number 100%. one. But how you present it now, then that's the other side of it. We present it with gospel choirs, gospel soloists, with quartets, soloists, duets, little groups, rappers, reggae, dancehall, blah, blah, blah. That's the different styles that it comes with.
That's true. So what gospel artists did you listen to growing up?
Growing up in my dad's house, if old school West Indians would remember, we all had, and probably your grandma and stuff had, and maybe even, no, your dad didn't have it, the Blue Spot Grams that were in our houses. I'm going back. See, I'm 5 decades and change. But we had these old stereo systems, which were absolutely amazing. They had such a great sound. And my parents, along with a lot of West Indian parents, would play your Jim Reeves and some of these old names, which were white artists, which were pop artists, but they'd done gospel albums, and they were very much into the country and western-y kind of
Elvis.
Elvis as well, you know what I mean, that
right,
kind of thing, But then it just so happened that my dad, when he was part of the whole New Testament church cycle, he used to have a record shop. And he used to set up this stall at national conventions. And so all of the music that was coming out of the States and the Caribbean, he would have it. So I was privileged to be able to hear Andre Crouch, Walter Hawkins, the Winans, all of these kind of things. That's where I started to cut my teeth with music. So Andre Crouch, that's why in the game there, that's the first name I called, you know what I mean? Or the name that you called. Because he changed the whole musical game when it came to gospel music. He came with a whole contemporary soul sound, which was like, whoa, this sounds nice. You know what I mean? And the thing is, because at that time, you used to have the traditional gospel singing coming from a Pentecostal church, very tambourine based, that kind of flavor, you know what I mean? That was great. But then when Andre Crouch came, he was like, whoa, what's going on here? This sounds like the stuff I'm hearing on the soul radio stations, but it's gospel. And it got really exciting for us as musicians and as singers, because we can actually now change our sound to sound like this, you know what I mean? And it didn't seem like pop music. It's just that we was able to take on a new style. And then from him came people like Walter Hawkins and Edwin Hawkins, the writer of Oh Happy Day. These guys are turning the old traditional James Cleave and Thomas A. Dorsey sound of gospel choirs into a contemporary sound of gospel. So that was like lighting our fires big time. We're like, wow, we can actually do this. And I think one of the reasons why the American sound was so dominant in the UK experience is because they changed the game.
Yeah.
So where we were used to the Caribbean reggae and the Caribbean country and western and the Caribbean style of choirs and singing, these guys changed the game to make it sound a lot more new and a lot more modern. And so we thought, yeah, we could do it and not get in trouble. Because, you know,
it's gospel music.
Because it's gospel music,
well,
yeah. Because if you ask any reasonable, even your pops, any reasonable Christian as they're young people, because there wasn't music, we were hearing all these sounds from the radio, and it was like, man, that sounds good, man, that's a feel, that kind of thing. But we couldn't play it. You know what I mean? So if I was playing Radio London or any of them stations, Robbie Vincent in my house, my dad would say, turn off that ungodly music! You know what I mean? We get in trouble for it. Wow. But because Andre and Marvin Winans and the Commission, all these guys were coming out with this new sound, which sounded similar to what we were listening to on the pop station, we didn't need to listen to that no more. We had this new sound of gospel. Wow. Which was amazing. So we put it on now, and then our parents say, what kind of pop music you playing? Nah, Dad, it's Andre Crouch. Nah, it's the one, it's gospel. It's gospel. And they'd be like, all right, then I'll let you go then, all right. You know what I mean? So now we was able to change our sound, get more up to date, and for a long while, as musicians, as singers, we were following and imitating and developing our own style, but following and imitating what these guys were doing until there was a break to say, you know what, we've got our thing now, you know what I mean? And we was able to develop our own unique British sound of gospel music, which had the roots from the Americans, but had a bit of rice and peas in there, had a bit of fish and chips in there as well, you know what I mean? And then what tended to happen now is that we started to, and we still are, setting a new trend with our own music, because we could do what the Americans do, we could do what the West Indians do, we could do what the Trinidadians and the Grenadians do with soca and everything else, but nobody could really do the British thing. So we had all of that wrapped up, and we started to deliver some really great sounds.
Wow, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Why does music play such a big part in the Black church? Because, for example, you can go to 5 different churches around the area, and I guarantee there'll be a drum kit, there'll be singers, there'll be a keyboard player. Whereas for other cultures, you'll be surprised if you even find a microphone. So why is music such a important thing to have in the Black church?
I think you've got to go back to the Black experience in general.
Yeah.
Black people are a vibrant people. Let's go back to Africa. And in any kind of African music, you will hear rhythm, you will hear drum beats, you will hear harmonies, all that kind of thing, you know. And I think that's something that's inbuilt within us, you know. So any Black person generally, and Black churches generally, there's got to be that vibrancy. Pentecostal and the whole Pentecostal experience is a vibrant experience. It's a fire-based experience, you know what I mean? We're lively people, you know, you just can't get away from it. You know, you put in any kind of music in any kind of environment, and shoulders start going, and there's a little feel to it, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's it, you know, and that's what we do. And so when you go to any of the Pentecostal churches, as you rightly said, you can be here, Restoration, you could be at UT, you can be at Church of God of Prophecy, you could be, it's the same, it's an experience, you know. West Indians, if you go to any West Indian home, generally you'll have rice and peas and chicken, you know what I mean? You go to any white home, you'll have fish and chips. You know what I mean? And mushy peas, you know, it's just part of our experience. And so what we've been able to do is bring that cultural experience to our churches, the vibrancy that we love in our worship, in our music, is brought into our services as well. And that's why any person that's coming from a Pentecostal experience, if you go to the evangelical church or a Church of England based church, you know, although we'll enjoy the word, and the word is important to us, music is such an important part of us as well. 100%. And so people will be like, you know, and they may have the acoustic guitar and they'll have the CCM style of singing, but you know, within ourselves, it's just not enough. Especially if we've come from it, you know what I mean? If you've never experienced it, then that's maybe You know, you may enjoy it, but then you take that person and bring them to a gospel concert now, they'll be like, whoa, this is what I love. Because it's something that I believe is ingrained within us, you know, within our culture, that we love to dance, we love to hear good rhythm, drums, we love to hear good bass lines, that kind of thing. As soon as you put a bass line in front of a black person, you're in trouble. You know,
it's true. That's actually true. You know?
Yeah, it happens all the time. You know?
Wow. So when did you notice the shift between, you know, from having choirs to having worship teams? Because from my understanding, I may be wrong, back in the day, nearly every church had a choir.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, there was just worship teams everywhere. When did you notice that shift, and how did the church respond to that?
I think what happened was, I remember Nicky Brown, our great friend and music mentor, legend, we don't say legend, we say ledge. He made a really big observation once, and I'll never forget this statement that he made. He said, one of the problems that we've got, we don't realize what we've got. Because we were running praise and worship years before the evangelical churches were running praise and worship. The whole clapping the hands, raising the hands, singing from our heart, we had that all down. But we never packaged it as praise and worship. It was just inspiration. But what happened is that the white churches, where they saw their numbers were going down, they were looking at the black church, it was so vibrant. And even now, the numbers that are coming to black churches, take COVID out of the way, the numbers that was coming to churches, black churches, were growing where the Church of England were dying. And one of the reasons was music and worship. And so what the evangelical churches have been able to do, and God bless them, they've been able to take what we do and repackaged it and sold it back to us as praise and worship.
Wow.
When you check it like that, you know what I mean? We were all doing the clap of the hands. We were all doing the hands in the air. We was all doing the psalms. We were singing these songs. But it wasn't formal. We never called it anything. We just called it Singspiration service. Before the start of the word or the service going on, you'd have the song leaders would lead a few songs, and then you go into the heart of the service itself. It's the same thing. You look at any evangelical church, it's the same format. The worship leaders lead out. Now we call ourselves worship leaders, you know what I mean? Praise and worship. God. You know, and they took it, and God bless them, they repackaged it, and they put the songs, then they done the registrations, the CCLIs and everything like that, and basically sold back to us what we've been doing forever. Let me just put it like that, you know what I mean? It's deep, but when you check it deeper still, it is like that. So, and taking up your point about the choirs, because remember the choirs back in the day was part of the worship team. You know what I mean? They'd have this.
So it was classed as a worship.
It was classed as worship because you had the choir singing. They had their spot to sing.
Yeah.
But any service, the choir was always on the stage. You had maybe one person, the moderator, and they'd lead the song. You know what I mean? Whether it's the Comforters come or any of these classical hymns, but the choir was part of that big sound as the worship team. You know what I mean? Leading the congregation into worship. That's what we used to have. But what happened is that choirs are high maintenance. Let me just say it like that. Yeah. Choirs are high maintenance. And so for us to be able to, what we started to do is look at the models that were out there, and all you needed is one front person with 3 backing singers or 4 singers to make your worship team and lead the church into worship. And that was becoming more and more popular. And I know it happened in our church where people didn't want to be in the choir anymore, but they wanted to be in the worship team.
Why is that? You think people felt like, okay, I feel special because I'm one of the chosen ones? You know what I mean?
That is a good observation, and can be seen like that people felt, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to be, because you're more in the front.
You're more in the front, yeah.
More in the back, you know what I mean? In the choir, you're not really seen, it's just this group of people. But as a worship team, you're the front line kind of thing. And so I think, you know, the worship team and worship ministry is absolutely amazing. I won't speak against it in any way. But unfortunately, it has become part of the death knell, the nails that's been in the coffin for choirs in general. And you found that people like Basil Mead and a few others have been trying their best to communicate with churches again and say, look guys, is your choir functioning? You know what I mean? And he's been going around doing workshops, getting choirs to function again. And we're blessed in Brixton I've got a great guy named John Ankle who leads the choir
Ankle,
down there. He's been a fervent choirman for years, you know, youth choir, sanctuary choir, young adult choir and stuff like that. So we still have choirs functioning in our church, and a lot of the new T churches still have choirs. But you'll find that more people have pulled off of the choir and are part of the worship teams now, you know, and so I think there is a move to get choirs functioning again. But as I said, it takes commitment, you know, to be in a choir. Worship team, now I'm not going to diss anybody, but I'm just telling it just the way.
No, tell it as it is, man. Don't leave anything out.
Worship team, you know, you rehearse 2 songs, 2 times, come from sing, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be in a gospel choir where you're singing harmonies and the harmonies have to be tight, breath control, practice, blah, blah, blah. Every week on, you're practicing. People ain't willing to do that. Let's just say it like that. People are just not willing to commit to rehearsing on a week-to-week basis, to learning new songs, learning full-on songs, because worship songs are not very difficult. You know what I mean? You've got a verse that you'll sing twice round. You know, it's the same verse you're going to sing.
Just repeat the chorus.
Read the chorus, and that's it, and you're out. You know what I mean? A gospel choir song is going to have 2 verses. It's going to have a bridge. You're going to have the chorus. You're going to have a inversion. Then you're onto the outro, and then you're blowing. This heart of the song is 2 minutes. The heart of the song is 2 minutes. The outro is 10.
True. That's true. That is actually true.
And then if you've got people like Hezekiah Walker as your choir director, then you're going, and then your inversion's going up and up, and the key changes, and so it takes a lot to be a choir singer. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't take a lot to be a worship singer. Apart from your preparation to lead the church into worship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's important. You know what I mean? You shouldn't really go up and just sing. You should be always preparing, and you should be building your worship as you're at home, as you're on the way to church, so that you're coming to the church worshiping. Yeah. But as a choir person, that's weeks of dedication. And I have it with my choir with IDMC, you know, where my choir members, even in this COVID, we rehearse every week. We're together every week.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? We get together, we have fellowship, we pray, I give them challenges, recording challenges to do. We've been recording songs like nobody's business over this whole season.
Oh, like over Zoom?
Over Zoom, yeah. And what I do, we rehearse, I send them the tracks, then they sing them back to me over Zoom individually so I can hear what they do, we could tweak it, and then I get them to record it on their own devices, send me the tracks, and songs like My Joy, Believe, some other stuff that we've been putting out, it's all been the choir rehearsed and recording at home.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really good. So do you remember the first time doing gospel music on a secular stage? What was that like for you?
I've been blessed to have been able to play for Basil Mead and the London Community Gospel Choir.
Yeah.
And if anybody has been able to kick the door open when it comes to gospel music on a secular stage, I have to tip my hat to Basil for doing that. 100%. And we've been able to, in my time with the choir, match any pop artist on stage for quality, vibrancy, the songs that we deliver, all gospel straight up. Some of them, on many occasions, we've been the backing singers for a secular artist, but in that same show, we've been given our own slot at the start of the show. So we've been able to deliver our stuff. Some of the people that have been able to share the stage with Alexander O'Neill, Shaka Khan, wow. Denise Williams, a lot of the pop icons from back in the day that some people may not know now, but a lot of these guys we've been able to do their stuff. We've been able to travel to around the world delivering gospel music, you know, because that's what the choir is. It's a gospel choir, and Basil never made no bones about it. This is who we are, and this is what we do. You know, we will happily do your BVs on your song. Give us a little slot, we'll do a little thing. You know what I mean? And the artist has found it hard to come up after us because the choir has lashed so hard, you know what I mean, and got everybody dancing and stuff. Come off the stage, everybody's like, and you can see the artist behind it going, you know, actually quite angry sometimes because you've taken the gig up to way beyond where they can actually perform at, you know what I mean? But it's just who we are. And going back to what we said about Pentecostal worship and singing, the choir just performs at that same church standard. That's just a basic standard for black church and black artists and black singers. It's not that we're trying to outshow you or anything like that, because while you're singing and while you're giving all that you're giving, the inspiration of the Holy Spirit is coming on you, and you're just giving God all you can. And so that means that you're doing a key change where there shouldn't have been a key change. You've done an inversion where there shouldn't have been an inversion. But the Spirit's in you, and the practice and dedication has taken you to that point where you can deliver these songs at a really high pace.
Wow. Got a similar question, going off topic a little bit. Now, obviously, I know you as a drummer, and for those of you who have not heard John Fish on the drums, you better hear him. So obviously I knew you as a drummer, and I know you played, a lot of conferences, conventions, played for different artists. And obviously I know you had a chance to play in, some secular arenas as well. What was it like as a young person playing from the, playing in church and now playing on the secular stage? Was you received well? Because for example, soon as people see, oh, you're a black person playing church, oh, gospel chops. What was it like for you? Was it like, oh, these church kids, these gospel kids? What was it like? Because people see the glitz, the glam, they see the lights, they see, you've got big drum kit. What was it like behind the scenes, especially back in the day, playing gospel music, and now you're in a secular environment as a young person? What was it like behind the scenes? Was you received well? Was it
in the secular world? The secular artists wanted that gospel feel.
Yeah.
They wanted that soul feel, but more than soul, because gospel's just got a whole energy of its own, you know what I mean? And so they wanted that gospel feel, whether you're on drums, whether you're on guitar, bass, or keyboards. They knew you were going to come with a particular sound that they wanted. You got some great secular musicians who can play, but back in those days, again, we just had a niche for ourselves that a lot of the secular boys just never had.
Yeah.
Black and white. It didn't matter if you was black or white. Not Michael Jackson. It didn't matter if you was black or white. These guys just never had the chops. They didn't have them down. And so in the secular field, it was received really well. Oh, wow. Sometimes it was received on a level where they was like, okay, that's a bit too much. Can you just ease off a little bit on it, tone it down a little bit, you know what I mean? But they still wanted it. And so a lot of the guys worked in that arena and worked really well for a great season, because they worked out we all worked out how to deliver who we were, but not be overbearing and put too much in the songs. When we started in it, we was giving it everything from church, but we realized that it was just too much, so we just eased it off and just sweetened the songs up a little bit, with what we do. Back home at church, my God, it was judgment, you know what I mean? Wow. From the point of view that a lot of our people were not happy with the fact that their church musicians were going out playing pop music. It's funny, back in the day, my dad in New Testament was one of the first musicians to bring electric guitars into church. And they got preached on to say, you're bringing the world music into church, you know what I mean? Listen, because it's electric guitar. See, back in those days, it was all acoustic and box guitar. They call it box guitar, but acoustic guitar and tambourine. Now these guys are plugging in with distortion pedals and stuff like that. And even, the church back in the day was deep. Because anything that sounded like the world was worldly. It didn't matter that you're a full-blooded, 100% Pentecostal, Sunday school teaching, Sunday school van driver musician, but the fact that you had an electric guitar and drums,
that was a problem.
That was a problem, in the early church. But these guys were really respectful. They said, listen, we're not doing a world thing, we're just accompanying the church and we're supporting. So they got it back in those days. My generation of musicians, myself, Nicky, Jerry Brown, Verroy Bailey, Andrew Smith, all these guys, great musicians. When we were teenagers and we were getting booked to do some of these gigs, a lot of the churches were preaching against the musicians, had conferences, When they have church conference and they say any other business, yes, I want to bring up a point about these musicians. I seen them on Top of the Pops. Why were you watching Top of the Pops anyway?
That's true. That's true.
But I see them on Top of the Pops. I see them on TV playing for this pop artist and that pop artist, and we're not happy. We don't like it. Some guys were ostracized, and some of these guys left church because they said that for them it was work. As much as they found a niche for what they do, the church wasn't paying them, and now the church still isn't paying them, for what they do. Yeah. But that's a whole nother discussion. But they weren't paying them, but they found a way that they could do what they loved as music, as a career, and become professional musicians. To the point where, on one occasion, and I love this story to my heart, one of my friends told me in a conference. And the same thing happened, any other business. Yes, these musicians are playing pop music and I don't like it. They're getting their wage from there, they're earning money from pop music. It's not of God. And this gentleman stood up, and a lot of people were really coming down, and the guys were sitting in conference, cowering back. And I think they were halfway, their foot was halfway going through the door if it carried on like this. And this gentleman stood up and he said, brethren, I'm hearing what you're saying. And I have to tell you, these guys work in the secular field as a professional career. Now I have to tell you something, brethren, that Benson and Hedges, which is an old cigarette brand from back in the day, Benson and Hedges have been allowing me to pay my mortgage and pay tithes in this church for 20 plus years. Now, for people who don't know, Benson and Hedges was a major cigarette company. But work is work.
That's true.
Secular work is secular work. Whatever you do, if you're an accountant, it's work. If you building site, it's work. These guys chose musicians to be musicians, professional musicians, and earning their money, paying their mortgage, paying their bills, paying their tithes through the professional work that they do. Now, the thing is, the problem comes when your integrity and what you do in the pop world gets questioned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you are playing for people and you're there smoking with them and you're out drinking with them and doing that kind of thing, that's where it gets all messed up. But I know for a fact that around them times, those guys and us guys used to go out, and there'd be 2 or 3 of us will be on a tour or wherever. I used to be doing a lot of teching work as well as playing. And on the shows, we do our shows, and at the end of the night, there's always going to be an after show party, and this is going on, that's going on. And I'll be honest with you, we'd say hi, just out of respect, how you doing? Yeah, enjoy, take a Coca-Cola, take a little beer, nothing more than a rum in the cake that West Indians having, and stuff like that. And we'd go for a minute, and then we'd go back to our hotel rooms. And the guys would have their Nintendos, they'd be watching TV, they'd be emailing or communicating. We'd be cracking jokes all day long, you know what I mean? Just stay in our company as protection.
Yeah.
Because
being accountable to one another.
That's it. We were accountable to each other because it was easy. Don't get it twisted. It was easy to pick up alcohol. It was easy to have drugs put in front of you. It was easy to have girls because a lot of the girls just wanted to be next to their pop stars, and they'd do anything to do it. You know what I mean? They'd open up themselves in many different ways to allow. And one of the ways through was through musicians. But we'd found ourselves, we'd be accountable to each other. You know what I mean? And so it got to the point where on many of these tours, we'd sit together and talk about church and laugh about church. And a lot of these artists would want to sit on our tables and hear stories about church and what we do. And this is some kind of stuff that people don't know. That if you talk to a lot of the guys, we'd be sitting down and we talk about what happened on Sunday, Brother Malcolm on Sunday. Did you hear what Bishop said and blah, blah, blah. And they'd be really intrigued to listen about what we get up to in our lives outside of their game. Wow. And a lot of the times, we had this on a tour very recently, 2 years ago. We were out with an artist called Lucas Graham. He had a song called Once I Was 7 Years Old, my mama told me. Biggest artist in the world at that time. And we'd done 2 weeks with him on the road. Absolutely amazing tour. And when we came off the tour, we had finished singing in front of 200,000 people. Wow. That was big. I could have never imagined that. You know what I mean? Financially, it was amazing. The experience was amazing. But one of the things that we brought to that tour because we were very careful about what we sung with the artists, number one, and they respected our integrity for that. But one of the things that we've done, we're still working as professional people, but we would always huddle together to pray. Say, Father, bless us as we go out, bring the lyrics back to our remembrance, because I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And I want to do the best possible job I can do. And when we go to work and when we go out on the roads, what do? Father, in the morning, we pray and we say, Lord, bless us as we go out. Keep us safe, allow us to do our job to the best of our ability so we can pay our bills.
Yeah.
And we do that. And the first day came and the pop artists were there getting ready. They do their praying, you know what I mean? And the second day, some of them noticed and they started to join us for the prayer. By the fourth day of the tour, they would not start the show until we prayed.
Wow.
The whole artist, the whole band, the tech team would huddle in a circle, said, and Lucas himself, great artist. John, can you give us an inspiring word, sir, and then pray? I'd just say an encouraging word to them all, and then we'd pray together. And that was a standard every day of the tour. They would not go on stage until the choir was together, until we prayed. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. These are stories you don't even hear about.
That's about bringing what we have to the table. People love to use that statement, what are you bringing to the table? What we brought to the table is God. Wow. And who we are in him, you know what I mean? And again, while we're there, again, the drugs were there, the drinks were there, the bad behavior was there, but I don't need to be a part of that, you know what I mean? I'm a Christian, that's why I'm first of all, before I'm a singer, before I'm an artist, I'm a Christian. And there's certain things that I have to abide by, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter where I work, there's certain things that I have to abide by, and that's what we do.
Wow. So what made you start IDMC in the first place?
You know what happened? In 1993, we, a New Testament Church of God, we had what was known as a crusade. People had called them conferences now, that kind of thing. But it was under a tent in Peckham Rye Park. And 4 churches came together, 4 districts came together, Brixton, Lee, Deptford and West Croydon as churches to put on this crusade. It was an inter-district event. And we put together an inter-district choir to support the event as well, which was amazing. It was good fun. And someone just sparked in me, I wonder if we could do something like that. I'm always thinking about concerts and that kind of thing. I wonder if we could do an inter-district mass choir, something like that. And so I talked with the other choir directors and they thought, it's a great idea, let's try it. And so after the Crusades were finished, in August of '93, we put the plan out. We told everybody they were engaged in it. We started rehearsing some songs, but I wanted us to create a UK sound. I didn't want it to be an American song-based project. I wanted it to be a British song-based project, and so I asked a load of friends of mine to help me with the songs. I was only very young in songwriting at that time. So I wrote 2 of the songs. A great friend, Clive McKinley, he wrote a song.
Yes, yeah.
Noel Robinson, he donated a song to the project. Danny Thomas, he donated a song to it. Simon Wallace, he donated a song to it. A guy from Church of God of Prophecy named John Campbell, he had 2 songs on the project. So we had like an 8-album project ready to go. And so we practiced over 4 or so months. And in 1994, we put the choir together and put together a massive 2-day recording session. And that's how IDMC was born. I love the choir sound. Yeah. I've been playing for LCGC for years. LCGC, the Inspirational Choir with Bishop John Francis, the Angelic Voice Choir with Simon Wallace. So choirs was a big part of my life. Peter Francis, I played for his choir. And so I love that big vocal sound. And so we put it together. I had nothing to do with directing. I didn't know nothing about directing. I just watched what people do and played behind them. And so we had Peter Francis as a director, Andrew Simpson as a director, and these guys, Karen Gibson, I believe, directed one of my songs as well, and projects as well. And so we all go back from there, And so it was great to launch the choir on that. And so I suppose in my mind, doing that project, I thought, yeah, man, we're going to tour, we're going to do this, we're going to do concerts, that kind of thing. But a lot of the choir members were happy to do the first project as a church project, but really their hearts wasn't in the week-to-week concerting and playing and doing, and they were a lot of them were very honest to say, Brother John, we love doing a concert, but listen, we've got family, we've got this, we can't commit to it. Stuff, yeah. So we went from a 79-piece choir on the first gig, and then we done a couple of national events, and then the numbers started to go down and down and down, which was cool because, man, managing 79 people is long. You know, that's two coaches.
Headache,
man, that's two coaches and stuff. So the numbers went down to a manageable number. But over the years, it changed from being a one denominational choir to a group of churches, people from various churches. So it became an interdenominational thing. And so we had people from New Testament, Church of God and Prophecy, NTA, Seventh-day Adventists, Church of England, Charismatics in there as well. So over our lifespan, we've had people from pretty much every denomination been in the choir.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Can you tell us a memorable moment that you witnessed where gospel music played it made a big impact? So for example, you know, maybe you done a concert in Germany and everyone was bawling. Can you say there was like a memorable moment where gospel music made a big impact?
A very hilarious and humorous story, but it's an impact story as well. We were in Poland one year, and we had a venue. The promoter said, John, we want you to come over. I've been with them before. They found a new place for us to sing. Brilliant example. I said, fantastic. We'll be there. Booked our flights, went over, had a full choir, full band. I think it was like an 18-piece unit that we was out there with. And just before the concert, it was a really beautiful Catholic building. Went back for miles. You know, they said, John, we've sold out the concert. I was like, whoa, this is going to be amazing. Can't wait. And she said, John, there's a few things I have to tell you to be ready for. I said, okay, what do you want to say? You are not allowed to get anybody to clap.
What?
You are not allowed to get anybody to stand up. Nobody can dance. And you just got to sing the songs. And I went, what are you talking about? Yes, we've had it from the priest. He's happy for you to the concert, but we do not want any kind of what we'd call back in the day jollification. Nobody can show any emotions or anything like that. I was like, okay. Now, you know you booked a gospel choir, right? Yes, we do understand that. Please just do what we ask and everything will be all right. I said, okay, cool. And I went back to tell the choir and they were killing themselves laughing. But I saw this as a bit of a spiritual attack, you know what I mean? Because, you know, if I'm going to sing about the joy of the Lord and you're going to sit down there like this, the two don't work, you know what I mean? If I'm going to talk about clap your hands, all you people, but you're going to sit with your arms folded, that's not going to work for me. But I said, God, I'm leaving it to you. Let's just make this work. So we went up, and with most of our events, especially if we're going to a brand new audience, we'll start soft, nice soft song, and then we'll start to bring it, you know. So we started with a song called In Your Presence, you know, a really great worship song. And then we went into God is Good, and we went into Lord, I Lift Your Name on High. We went into some of these songs. And you know what? It was interesting because I was watching the dynamic of the crowd, and the promoter was outside, was pointing at me, John, remember, don't let them dance. And we're singing, and the band is going for it, and this choir is singing with all the joy in their heart. I said to the choir, guys, I don't want you to be, I have to tell you what I've been told, but it does not determine who we are. You just go up and we sing to the glory of God because it's all about Him. You know what I mean? Let's give Him, you know, His glory because He's brought us to this point. You know what I mean? So we're singing, and I have to say the choir sung their socks off that night. We are 3 songs in, and I'm seeing people in the audience like this, you know. Their shoulders are going, and I can see they want to get up and dance. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to say nothing yet. We went to another ballad, and we went to a couple more up-tempo songs, and the crowd, you could see any minute they were going to explode, like you shake a fizzy drink, and you open the cap and it explodes on you. They were there, and I could see the same bishop, or whatever you call him, that they said wouldn't like all that. I see his feet tapping, and I could see him moving away, and he's like, smiling. I said, come on, do you want to stand on your feet and dance? Who told me to say that? The whole place erupted, clapping, and it was going through it. And even the person that his face was straight, he started smiling now, and he's shaking, and he got up.
Wow.
and clapped and was dancing away. And at the end of the night, he came up to us and said, I've never experienced the joy of the Lord like that. Because we are accustomed, and you have to forgive me, John, you have to forgive me, John, that we are accustomed to our style of worship, which is very dignified, and because I think that's just their translation of the Bible that they had. But we are Psalms 100 people, you know what I mean? Give thanks and, make a joyful noise unto the Lord and all your land, and use the cymbals and the harps and the voice, and that's where we live, you know what I mean? But other people from other churches live in a different place on the Bible, you know what I mean? And so he said, I never experienced joy like that. Thank you. You know what I mean? Not to say that things were going to change overnight for them in that church, but they experienced another level of God's joy. Yeah. And from that, we came away with that. Man, they fed us so well. I think they gave us a bonus as well, praise the Lord. Right?
Wow.
We sold all our CDs that night. We came away with light bags, you know what I mean, from that tour. But it's been a great experience being able to do that. Another time where we experienced God really move was a very simple gig. It was out at Trafalgar Square, where they were protesting about sex traffickers who were kidnapping girls and holding them to ransom and stuff like that. And there's an organisation where an actress named Emma Thompson was involved with it, and we were able to sing. I remember it as a dark night. The choir was standing in a circle with Emma and a few others. Dustin Hoffman was there as well, actually. And we started singing some praise songs. But then times, Trafalgar Square on a Saturday night was always heaving. And the crowds that came in was absolutely huge. And we're giving God thanks, and we're giving him praise, and we're singing, and we're praying for deliverance of these young children who are being trafficked. And they want to be at home with their parents. And that was really, for me, if people ask me one of my most moving moments, that simple concert, no money, no PA system, no band, just voices. Wow. The purity of voices at that time was absolutely amazing.
Wow, that's big. So where do you see UK gospel in the next 5 years?
UK gospel, I believe, is in a really good place, I believe that the guys who are coming out with stuff, because we've got a lot of the millennials now who understand business, who understand the business behind music. They are getting their stuff registered well. They are now earning money through their music. They're streaming, they're getting the downloads working for them. Yeah. They understand social media and that stuff in a very big way. I think we're in a good place to say that our music is getting more and more exposure. I think with, God bless him, Stormzy coming out and being very vocal in regards to gospel music, with Blinded by Grace, and even his latest song has got a gospel twist to it again. To be able to hear Blinded by Your Grace, Lord, I'm broken, and telling that prayer at Glastonbury. That was huge for gospel music, you know what I mean? To have Matty Brown and Isaiah and all those guys in the band, to have those gospel choirs that was singing behind him on that huge stage where it was out and out gospel. It wasn't inspirational lyrics, it wasn't an inspirational song, it was pure God, you know what I mean? And so to know that through people like him and other people, there is a generation who don't know God, but they've got a very strong gospel song on their phones that they listen to. That means that that UK gospel is in a very, very good place.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So there may be people that are watching and they don't really know about gospel music, but they want to do some research. Can you give 10 artists who they should listen to understand gospel? Could be UK, could be America.
Yeah, I'd go and I'd start in America. I have to start in America. You know what I mean? I would say, and there are, over this Black History Month season, there are some shows on TV at this moment talking about Black history and gospel music and stuff like that. Okay. But I'm definitely going to go Thomas Dorsey, the godfather of gospel, Precious Lord, Take My Hand, all those kind of songs. You have to go there. You have to go Mahalia Jackson, you know what I mean, some of those guys. I would say go James Cleveland. I'm going to try and do 5 and 5.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're going to go James Cleveland, then you're going to go Walter Hawkins, you're going to go Andre Crouch. You have to go pull up some of these guys to listen to the growth of gospel music over this time. Hezekiah Walker, all these guys, great gospel artists. In the UK, we started with great, like the Singing Stewarts from way back in the 60s, 7 Day Adventures. Man, I'm learning myself, brother.
Yeah.
But you had those guys. And then you're gonna go and look at the churches, Church of God in Christ, Kojic. They were heavily influenced by the Clark sisters and Matamas Clark.
Of course, yes.
And their choirs were absolutely raging back in their days. You've definitely got to go back to people like the Heavenly Hopes, Joe Pitt, those kind of guys, Basil Mead, and Canis, where you got people like Dr. Joel Edwards, who is a super qualified speaker and preacher in his own right, but he was a rock guitarist back in the day, you know what I mean, for this group called Canis, you know what I mean. And so bringing it up to date a lot more, definitely Basil Mead and the London Community Gospel Choir is going to help you with seeing how British Gospel Choir started to develop from there. Bishop John Francis, an inspirational choir. And then you're going to go where we talked about praise and worship. You have to be listening to people like Noel Robinson, you know, one of our homeboys from over here who for the last 25 years has been ploughing the fields for UK praise and worship. Him, Mark Beswick, Muiwa, these guys. Muiwa's from the African side of the track, you know what I mean? He created a whole praise and worship sound for the African, as well as a lot of other guys that are out there. Bringing it up to date, Sarah Tabo, who is really shaking up the environment. She done a collaboration with Fred Hammond the other day, you know what I mean?
Yes,
so,
I did hear that,
So she's getting that link in. If you're gonna go on the hip hop side, you've got to look at Governor B and Green Jade and all of these guys, 29th chapter. Faith Child, all these guys, you know what I mean? Bringing it up way up to date, you've got to look at people like Volney Morgan, you know what I mean? And if you check Volney's history, then you go back to inspirational choir through Bishop John Francis. And if you go back to just Bishop John Francis, you'll go back and see again James Cleveland, you know what I mean? It all interlinks, that kind of thing. And if you bring it way up to date, then you have to go and listen to IDMC.
Of course.
And this guy named John Fisher.
Of course, you have to.
So those are the kind of links and there's so many more guys that I could call out, but that's just not even 10% of the music itself, you know. So look at those names, just type in UK gospel music, UK gospel music history, American gospel music history. I was privileged 10, 15 years ago to go to the what do they call it, the Gospel Music Workshop of America. This is a gospel music convention. You know, when you talk about church conference, and this is gospel music convention, and that's back-to-back music, back-to-back workshops, back-to-back groups, back-to-back choirs. It was crazy for 7 days. And imagine, America's a big place, so people are coming from every state in America, 50 plus states in America, to come down to one site in Detroit. And it was the 35th anniversary of it. And Ariel, I have to tell you, you get up in the morning, they have a prayer breakfast session. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's going to be nice and calm, I'm going there. I open the door. I don't know if you see these cartoons where you open the door and the wind that comes out blows your hair this way. Mate, gospel singing, they were belting it at 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought to myself, what's going on here? You had youth choirs, you had musical nights where you had the choirs coming on the stage. Children's choirs, youth choirs, gospel choirs, senior citizen choirs. Everybody was raging. They had a Japanese choir come. Let me tell you how intense it was. They had a Japanese choir come on. And Americans love them because they think they've got it all going on. So they say, yes, we have the gospel from Japan. And they were like, oh, that's sweet. Oh, that's nice. Let's have a listen to them. When they sang, the Americans were like, oh my God, they sound like us. Because Japanese can emulate practically everything that's going on.
They're very good.
But they were very, very good. And so, you know, there's lots of history behind gospel music, going back years and years. I believe it was Thomas A. Dorsey who started the Gospel Workshop of America, and then James Cleveland took it over from him and ran it, and it's now got its own lifeblood. And so over here we've got the same kind of thing with the gospel music, the GMIA, gospel music. I should know what it's called because I get involved with them all the time. Juliet Fletcher and the team, who are trying to represent gospel music over in this country as well. So we've got a rich history. We've got a rich history and a rich background.
Wow, thank you so much for being here today. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at the nearest chicken shop. That's my ministry. No, but you can find me at IDMC. I'm on Facebook and all the mediums as John Fisher. I acquire IDMC UK Gospel. IDMC Gospel UK on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything else, you know what I mean?
It's going to be all below. It's going to be all below here.
So you can find all of what I do there. We are getting ready in this Black History Month to celebrate with those people who are suffering with mental health. And so we're trying to release music regularly. Because we're in COVID, we're not releasing an album for this year. We plan to, but usually we'd promote it on the road, concerts and stuff like that. But the way that we can keep in touch with people is to release music regularly for various occasions. And in Black History Month, we'll be releasing a track called an old song made famous by Mahalia Jackson, called If I Can Help Somebody As I Pass Along, Then My Living Will Not Be in Vain. Old school song. But we added a little soul to it, a little bit of Reverend Al Green to it, and IDMC touch. And we've attached it to a video to support World Mental Health Day. And we're praying that through this song people will be blessed, they'll be inspired. And the main message is that, you know, there are people that are looking out for you. If you need help, all you need to do is ask for it.
Wow, that is amazing. So please go and check that out and please support. You've got some albums out as well, so please go and support. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Remember to like, share and subscribe and share it, spread the word. Again, thank you so much, John Fisher, and God bless and have a good day. Take care.
Joy down deep inside,